Dinner at Grandma Great's home. My great-grandmother's tall, strong body blocks the entrance to the front of the building where my brother has just escaped past the curtain. I know out there are treasures, tiny morsels of sweet delight, the candies my great-grandmother sells as part of her convenience store stock. She blocks my body, it seems to me on purpose, and looks down, turning her head like a bird, so her one good eye lands directly on mine. I stand and send my 3-year-old strength through my eyes in defiance to her. Who are you to stare at me? She starts back as though she's read my thoughts, and then her eye targets once more my own. I'm thrummed with an energy of stern intensity that makes me shake and cry. At my tears, my mother's body rises from the table behind me. I sense her as a golden shadow, but my great-grandmother says, "Don't. She's all right." Then that formidable woman pulls back the curtain and with her free hand wafting the air signals me to move with it. I do. My tears have stopped. There, my brother stands at the counter, which displays to the front window its wares. He is older than I am by 2.5 years and already seasoned in what is about to begin. I move toward him as a comforting known. He looks into me, sees my distress, then points to the candies which lie like gems of a princess kingdom in neat boxes nestled into the enormous sill which bends down toward the window and the street beyond as though yearning to release its bounty. Look, you can have whatever you want. The thrill in my brother's voice contagious. I don't know what I want. Of that I am sure. I know to watch my brother, though, and see whatever he does. Except he quickly catches on. You don't have to take whatever I take, he says, proud of his knowledge, his ability to wield this world with skill. What do you want? I look, the colors swirl, then my eyes adjust. Orange, green, and red jujubes I can taste before I have them in my mouth. Beige caramel squares I know melt sweetly until the sugar crumbles in your mouth like sweet dry paste. Red licorice Twizzlers, black balls, those rounds of extended pleasure yielding not only the flavor but the color of each ring, so you have to take the ever smaller ball from your mouth, examining how its rainbow fades. Hollow, thin black licorice sticks standing out of white bags full of a white, sweet tasting powder, so this choice delivers twice. Once from its stick and once from the fluff inside the bottom of the bag. I turn to see my great-grandmother, a large brown bag in her hand, snap the air with the paper bag so it opens grandly. Into it she begins to place whatever my brother points toward. I see her body soften when she does this, so I am encouraged. I anticipate the softness, the sweetness of her energy around me when it is my turn. Instead, she hands the bag to my brother. Here, help your sister. At dinner, I sit beside my mother, the reassuring warmth of her body a mantle I huddle toward. The white tablecloth supports blue willow china and real silver cutlery whose gleam of clean polish dances in the soft light offered by the shaded kerosene lamps. The table is round. My father sits on the other side of my mother where I can't see him, and next to him my brother. A muffled human sound waltzes across the table. My brother, his brown eyes shining, his ruddy cheeks like fire, answers quickly and clearly something I hear but do not understand. How I yearn to decipher the magic code. The adults all laugh, enjoying this game, this experience I am too young for. My grandmother, my mother's mother, sits next to my brother. My grandmother's coiffed hair, curled and mostly brown, surrounds her long, narrow face. She is a large-boned woman, but thin. Beside her is the man I always knew as her father, my great-grandfather Chapman. A small, quiet figure, round-bodied, round-eyed eyes, his round head fringed with a fringe of white. His lips lapped together softly in a little smile all the time, as if he heard the first lines of a joke constantly. Next to him sits Maud, She wears a white frilled cap on her head, and a white apron fully covers her long skirt and long sleeve blouse, the dress of her birthplace. She moves whenever my great-grandmother, whom we all call Grandma Great except my grandmother who calls her Mama, whenever Grandma Great speaks. When she speaks, Maud moves to fetch, set, fix, arrange, reassemble, restore, serve, clear the bowls of steaming mashed potatoes, boiled dark orange turnips, fat bright carrots, round green peas, the platter of round sweet roast beef dimpled with white melting fat, its essence escaping in streams of scent rising to my nostrils. My mother begins to speak, but Grandma Great stops her. We'll begin. Her soft Scottish brogue belies the unyielding will her tone reveals. We'll begin with a wee moment of grace. So it starts. I pick at my vegetables, push them across the plate. She should eat those. Grandma Great's sharp sounds land on my mother, whose body I feel grow more firm. Grandma Great continues, I'd make her eat everything on her plate. Her language lights around my mother's body, which sits more straight in her seat. She replies, she has eaten all her meat. My mother's implication is I am good. I have done enough. I have succeeded. My grandmother leans across the table, suddenly tall, filling my vision so I yearn in toward my mother. Well, she'll have to behave now, be on her best behavior now. There's another one on the way. 3 kids, that's a lot. I feel my grandmother's words as a warning of something I cannot help, cannot prevent, as something ominous that will cost my mother dearly. My mother's arm reaches instinctively to embrace my small body. She pulls me close. I feel that exhilarating buzz of energy she emits, a strong current I live for, as she states confidently, oh, she's my good girl, aren't you, sweetie? Her eyes shine on me, those black-brown orbs of universal understanding, now approving and erasing all that has gone before. I am hers. I am her good girl. I nod a small nod up to her and trail my head toward the rest of the table as my mother squeezes me, safe and loved, underneath her arm. My brother flashes me a look. Wriggling, he says, may I please be excused from the table. My father nods. My brother looks at me, and I know he wants me to get down, too, so we can play. I am content where I am. I want to stay within the bliss of my mother's energy. She turns to me, softly pushes, says, go on now, play with your brother. That's a good girl. I must leave her. More slowly than he did, I quietly asked to be excused, aware of my brother's brown eyes never leaving mine. His determination, his lead. We cross out of the small dining area, and as we find the hallway, he hits me gently. You're it. I know this game. Ah! We run, tumbling back and forth. Who is it? Who it is? Then he's chasing me, and a new hallway opens up on my right. A split second's hesitation before the urge to keep running takes over. I turn down the hallway, ecstatic with the knowledge I am escaping him. A door! I turn the knob, and oh, blessing, it opens. Victory fills my body, and I throw myself into the open mouth of the now gaping entrance, my tiny feet pounding 1, 2, then the other on solid ground. Then with my brother hurtling after me, I take the next step off into a black abyss. I dangle in space, then fall, falling, a mistaken ash, crash, and crumple. My screams and the abrupt thump of my body landing near a pile of coal echo through my brother's yells for Mom, Dad, anyone? My grandmother comes through the now lit gap at the top of the stairs. I want my mommy, I sob. Well, you'll have to do with me. My grandmother, nurtured by the one-eyed wall of willpower that was Grandma Great, displayed the same techniques. Oh, you're all right, now stop that caterwauling. My grandmother stands me upright, not unkindly, tries to hold me by the small arm I yank from her. I want Mama! My sobs break the language into syllables, rendering my request useless, powerless. Body heat rises in sweat that trickles into the coal dust, so rivulets of gray mess splay across my face, my arms, and legs. No! I look at her, defiance shaping my small body into a rigid block. You, both of my grandmother's eyes find mine, will go back to your mother when I have cleaned you up. You are covered in coal dust. And, her eyes pierce into me, soon you will have a little sister or brother, and your mother will not be able to take care of you, so you best get used to it. She shuts her lips in a thin grimace and gently pulls me toward the back of the basement. Now, do you want to see your mama, or do you want to stay here by yourself? What? My mother gone from me? I am bereft already, my body a small, soft lump of used flesh, no strength left if my beloved mother does not find me a place in her kingdom. I do not care about the dirt on me. I do not believe my mother cares about the dirt. I want her stream of love, her physical presence that bears so much healing, so much soothing comfort, so much love. I look up at my grandmother and understand the fastest route to my mother lies through this woman and her inadequate menstruations. I let her lead me to a set of concrete tubs, wash basins for rinsing the clothes once they've been churned in the machine's belly, once they have been squeezed between the two thin rollers that clap each other like desperate friends. Those basins full of clean, clear water where the clothes have their rinse, exactly like my mother's in our basement at home. Those basins now accept the coal dust from my arms, neck, face, and legs. My grandmother unwraps a bar of orange-colored Lifebuoy soap, its scent escaping through the strong smell of coal, wafting up my nose with a sudden promise of clean order. She applies its suds to my little arms as though smoothing a healing unguent, and I feel calm enough to soften my body. This gran, alcoholic, inherited the sight from that strong woman, her mother with the one roaming eye. My great-grandmother, Jeannie Chapman's insufficient first marriage produced 2 children and raised within her a fist of tumult. On Scotland's shore, her one good eye pegged itself to the children in packages of silver, china, and crystal at her feet, as her sightless eye roved across the ocean toward that unknown land, Canada, seeing there a future more to her liking than any offered in the damp, oppressive Edinburgh of her birth. While on board, she met one Joe Chapman and simply changed her name, a fact we did not know until much, much later. My great-grandmother did not rely on state or church to tell her to whom she was wed. She made her own decisions and lived by them, and drank. Frequently enough, so my gram told me of her early life, oh, I'd come home from school and there'd be tomato soup on the wall all over it and them drinking. As soon as I walked in, Gram nodded her head, mimicking her mother's nod. Mama said, "Clean it up, girl." So there's me on my knees, wiping the wall down while they... Here she shrugged her shoulders, showing me what they did. And there was no dinner that night. My grandmother claimed her own visions began after her waist-length carrot red hair, a true mark of her Scots blood, caught in the tracks of one of the first streetcars, a vehicle she called a trolley, in Toronto. Outside the door of their store at Queen and Pate, my grandmother's screams pierced the air where the conductor slams the brakes on, relieved to see only the shining tresses of my grandmother's precious hair wound ever more tightly around his wheel, which attempted and failed to pull my grandmother's head off her shoulders, and Mama, running with the scissors, clips her daughter's head free. After that, Graham's visions rose spontaneously. The most told story involved her walking upstairs to her mother's apartment, where Grandma Great babysat little Gordon, my grandmother's first child. As my grandmother reached the top stair, her hand on the doorknob, she saw in full detail her firstborn in his coffin, the funeral in process. Overcome, Graham called out for her mother, who soothed her, calmed her nerves down, but whose own veins pumped with what she knew, these visions and their accuracy. My toddler uncle died 3 days later, a ghost whose testimony to Graham's prophetic ability wove through my earliest life.